here at Daytona, Clash Daytona, Florida. Super excited, ready to race. It's an awesome venue, awesome atmosphere. Got the half Ironman distance, if you will. Like I said earlier, they kind of have a copyright on it. So the swim's a little bit short, but nonetheless, 56-mile bike, half marathon run, and then the swim, a little bit over a mile. So super excited. Definitely ready to get back on the horse again to race. We'll keep you updated. What's up, everyone? All right, so I wanted to do a race review of Clash Daytona 2023 middle distance race. The middle distance is a 1.2 mile swim, 56-mile bike, half marathon run. Basically a half Ironman, but like we talked about in several other videos, half Ironman is kind of copyrighted by Ironman. Nonetheless, day before the race, I was able to watch my wife Hannah do the sprint triathlon. Was feeling really good that day. Was on my feet a little bit more than I would have liked, but nonetheless, I was feeling really good into it. I hadn't done any exercise, honestly, for like 3 days before that point. So Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and Saturday, I did very little exercise, if any. Saturday, I think I did a 12-minute run just to kind of loosen up a little bit, but that wasn't ideal. So going into Sunday morning, which was the race, I really didn't know how it was kind of going to go. So starting off that morning with the swim, it was extremely cold. The water was about 67-ish degrees. I went with the wetsuit. I went with the sleeveless wetsuit this time instead of the full sleeves. I just feel like I have a greater range of motion with just the sleeveless suit, so that's why I chose to wear that for the triathlon. Got to the first buoy, was feeling really good. I was kind of overly extending myself a little bit, so I backed off a little bit, especially for that 200 to curve. Looked at my watch. I was there in like 16, 17 minutes, which is really fast for me. And so I was like, okay, as long as I can just kind of hang on to this pace, I'll do well, because my goal was like 35 minutes. And so that last little stretch, I kind of just worked on form. I relaxed a little bit. I was breathing every third stroke. And I actually was able to kind of pull in some people on that final home stretch and pull my time down as well. I think I came out of the water like 31:50s, which is really good for me and a personal best at that distance. Coming into transition, I tried to regroup a little bit. I always get a little amped up and out of breath coming out of the water. So coming in transition, hammered it out. So get out of transition one, get onto the bike. There was a little bit of a headwind at first. Once we got onto the straight, onto the roadway there was just 2 lanes. It was a straight there and back. You did it twice, so it was kind of there and back, 19 miles, 29, 39, 49, and then you made it back around, you had about 7 miles to go once you did that turn. So you essentially rode the same section of road 4 different times because it was a 2-loop course. So going out, I thought I had a headwind, so I kind of dropped the hammer a little bit, tried to push hard to be able to make up that gap, because I know the stronger the cyclist, the better they do in the headwind. And so I pushed hard, got to the turnaround, turned around, then the tailwind actually started to hit me, and it was probably the greatest moment in my cycling triathlon career, because it was hammer time at that point. Never saw hardly below 28 miles an hour. Was feeling great. I hit that 10-mile segment according to the race stats on the app in 28.5, which is really fast for me, or fast for anyone, honestly. Turned around, I was able to average still 23-ish, 22, high 22s for that headwind section back. And then the last 28 miles or so coming back home from the halfway point, I was nothing less than 25 miles an hour. I was able to average overall for the full 56 miles, 24.6, which is hands down a personal best for me. I was super stoked with that. The first hour of the bike, I chose to do Morton drink mix, 100 caffeinated 100. So I had 100 milligrams of caffeine, 79 grams of carbs. And my philosophy was I'll just go ahead and load up early on the carbs, just keep it all liquid, and then I'll start doing my goos and my gels afterwards in the second hour, second hour and 15, hour and 30. Well, what happened was I drank my Morton drink the first hour, feeling good, feeling great. When I started reaching back and I realized I didn't have any of my gels. They either came out in the bike, they came out out of the swim when I was trying to get my wetsuit off. They fell out somewhere on the course. So I was in a little bit of a pickle because I'd only had 79 grams of carbs that first hour. I would have liked to have had at least 2 gels during that second hour. So I kind of went an hour and 15 minutes with nothing, which possibly caused later on in my run some of the stomach issues or whatnot. But nonetheless, learned a very valuable lesson. I've got to wait till I get out of the water, then put my gels in and make sure they're fully and secure before I just take off, because that little extra 20 seconds in transition can make or break your entire race. If you just take your time, take the extra 15 to 30 seconds you got to take, put your stuff in your gel, make sure you got, or your suit, make sure you got all your nutrition. That way when you get onto the course, you're ready to hammer and you don't have any later on hindrances. Come into transition 2 or T2 as some people call it. I was feeling great. I was on cloud 9. I was so ready to hammer out this run because I knew in training I was poised and positioned to run a sub 130 for the half, which was nothing out of question for me. I just ran a 15K a couple weeks before, averaging like low 630s. So I knew I could just hold 640s or 650s and be perfectly good coming off the bike. Even if I had to just cruise at 730s or 740 pace for the run, hey, it was all going to be a great day. So come out of T2, I was coming out hot. I did not check my sugar at that point. Probably should have. But I was feeling good, and I didn't want to waste time with my Libre 3 to be able to connect to my phone. So I just pushed it hard out of T2. Get onto the run. The first mile, I think I was around like 7:15 to 7:20. I was feeling great. I was holding back. Then about a couple hundred yards after I hit the first mile marker, I started to get a little sick to my stomach. Start dry heaving a little bit. By the time I hit mile 2, I was already full vomiting, just very sick to my stomach, couldn't figure out what was going on. So I just kind of walked for a little bit, got my bearings straight. I figured once I got everything out, I would probably settle down a little bit and I could cruise back into my run. But at that point, once I got everything out of my stomach, my sugar dropped because I didn't have anything keeping my sugar up and there was no sugar in my system. I tried taking another gel. It didn't sit well with my stomach again. So to say the least, I just kind of mustered my way through the run. I think I averaged 10:15 pace for overall, did a 2:12 half marathon, which I'm incredibly embarrassed about because that was about 50 minutes slower than I would have liked to have run. But hey, that's part of triathlon and that's part of the learning curve. Thankfully, I got hopefully a long career ahead to be able to figure these kind of things out. But I think the biggest thing is just keeping my nutrition right on the bike and putting maybe some bread or just maybe some fig Newtons or something to be able to help absorb some of that stomach acid that's making me so sick coming off the bike. But overall, I was super excited with the race. Clash is a phenomenal event. If you haven't done it before, I encourage you to. I absolutely loved just the atmosphere, racing on the track, everything about it. I mean, all the different races they offer, from the sprint distance to the open water swim to the bike time trial to the kids triathlon to the half distance triathlon. It was all phenomenal, and I encourage you to check out Clash, and I will certainly be back next year to get the time I know I can do.